All right, we are back for our second session tonight. Thank you for joining us this evening. Jason Spencer right here with us in session number 2. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, John. How are you?
Hey, I am great. I'm glad that you were able to make some time for us on this warm summer night. I'm guessing your weather is probably a lot warmer than ours.
Yeah, I think we hit 102 today. My car said some astronomical number beyond that, but
Man, that's not supposed to happen for you guys.
It's Sacramento. It's definitely supposed to happen. Actually, we're a little bit warmer than usual right now.
Yeah, a little warmer than that's what I've heard. So tonight we're going to talk about basically keeping some of that money that flows through our hands. So we get all these, in the summertime, it's our cash flow time, and we get the money coming in, and we're like, hoo-hoo-hoo, and then it's gone.
Yeah, that's typical of all of us in the event industry, particularly those of us that revolve around weddings, where we get our early year, at least for most calendars, our early year, brides are coming into us, money's coming in, deposits are coming in. We get this huge little windfall of cash at the early part of the year as the deposits and balances get paid off. We have a little bit of a hump in the middle of the year, and then the end of the year rolls around. And if you're really focused on the wedding industry, you kind of fall out of it. And you start getting a little worried about where all that money went, because you're like, I was rich earlier this year. Why am I broke now? So what I talked about in Vegas was profit first. And that was one of the ways. And I was so happy to see other people after me on that same day follow up with the concepts that I spoke about on stage. Like Jim Cerrone, he talked about how you could afford the show next year just by simply stashing some money away. And then you, of course, talked about it after the show as well.
Yeah.
You had a video that came up, and those are true core concepts of profit first. They're dead simple ideas, but once you enact them, once you put them in place, you put some little safeguards around your money and around your bank accounts, and that money stays in there because you actually feel a little bit guilty for spending it if you take it from the right account and you do those safeguards the right way.
Yeah, you think that's one of the cool things about it is that when you're talking about it, and it's almost scary because now it's like, okay, I'm putting money into these spots, and it's like, okay, I feel like once it's there, I can't touch it, and that's kind of scary.
It is scary, and that's the beauty of it though, because you start realizing that a couple of things. One, maybe you don't actually need that money to make your business work. And that's something that I discovered over the course of the last 2 to 3 years is there are all these little things that I used to do that honestly, I probably could just set the money on fire and I would have gotten the same result. I mean, it was just, I did not need to do these things. So I found ways to trim some of that money out. It goes over into various accounts. My favorite one this year, and I've not done the story for Disc Jockey News yet, but my favorite one this year had to be my taxes. We all pay taxes, particularly here in the U.S. We have to look at it in a slightly different way. Many of us look at it as an evil. The truth is it's a reward for running our business and a successful business at that. So we're going to pay those taxes regardless. We pay quarterly estimates, but if we've grown our business, the end of the year rolls around, April rolls around, and we're sweating bullets because we have to pay more money out. So with Profit First, we've taken a set percentage of that money out and we're setting it aside and we're safeguarding it in that other account that we can't touch, except for the 4 times a year that we need it, and that's to pay our taxes. And this was the first year that while I needed to pay a little bit more, the money was over there in that account. I didn't have to think about it. My wife didn't even know it was sitting over there because she doesn't handle the finances on my business. So we got to that end of the day with our tax preparer, and he goes, "Here's how much you owe." And I said, "Perfect, here's a check." He was like, "What? You have a check?" And my wife was like, "What? You have a check?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go out to dinner. We're done." And it was really that simple. And that was probably one of the biggest beauties for me in Profit First was not so much the profit side of it, but my taxes were done. I didn't think about them. Not one bit.
Now, I'm going to jump up here in the chat. Matt Christensen made a comment here. Stashing money is easy. Remembering where you put it, that's the not so easy part. One of the interesting things with what you've talked about through the Profit First is having multiple accounts.
Yes.
I mean, not just multiple envelopes that are sitting on a counter or multiple beds that you're tucking this under, or, putting some of it under the roast beef in the freezer. And let's talk about how to set up the different accounts, because I think that's another kind of scary thing.
It is a very scary thing. And the envelopes, that stuffing it under the mattress, that was grandma's way. That was pre-technology, if you will, as far as what we see today. There are so many things out there, such a vast array of options out there. And I want to preface this real quick. What I'm about to share, I'm going to share two banks that I would recommend. I'm not getting kickbacks from these banks. I'm not associated with these banks beyond the fact that I actually use them myself. So I just want to preface it real quick with that. But one of the banks that I use for savings accounts only, this is actually where I keep my tax reserve, and this is where I keep my profit money, particularly so I can't see it. I only go in there once a quarter to get it, and that's at Sallie Mae. Most people are familiar with Sallie Mae for student loans, but the truth is they actually have savings accounts, and they're high interest yield accounts. So one of them gets, I guess, high in terms of today.
Yeah, it's relative.
One of them gets 0.8 actually, which is one of the highest out there, and the other's a money market that gets 0.9. And that is not an introductory rate. That is full-time what I get 12 months out of the year. And so I'm not storing a ton of money over there, but it is earning a little bit of cash on the side as well. And those are out of sight, out of mind.
Let's hold that thought. Just put a pin in that thought for a second. You know, every time I have a financial advisor talk to me about buying whole life, they're always telling me that, you know, every dollar you put in, you're going to be, every 10 years, it's going to double because of, 12% interest rate. In real world, 0.9.
I could go on and on about financial planners. I am not a financial planner.
No, I didn't say, but yeah, it's the real world at 0.9. It's like 15 years ago, we'd have thought, you only getting 0.9 for your...
we could go on and on about
Okay, so you mentioned Sallie Mae as one of the banking. Yes. What's the other institution?
So that's kind of my hidden area. My day-to-day accounts that I'm working in, I just started this. I'm moving them over from another bank, but just started it last month. It's Capital One, and it's their new Spark business accounts. And the beauty of this is, and actually both of these, Sallie Mae and Capital One, there's no monthly fees. I don't pay anything to have these accounts. And with that, there's no minimum balance requirement. So if I zero out, which in Profit First, we actually have you zero out certain accounts as you do this rhythm throughout the month, I'm not going to get dinged with a minimum balance, dropping below $500, $5,000, whatever most banks might actually have in there. Mm-hmm. Even better, because we are setting up multiple accounts, the base of Profit First is 5 accounts, but in general, most people we see run somewhere between 7 and 10 accounts. And you can have 5 checking accounts with Capital One Spark, and you can actually have 25 savings accounts. All of them are fee-free, and they all end up in the same dashboard for you.
Oh, nice.
So it's a great spot that you'll never forget where you stash that money.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really cool. And it's all online. It's an online deal. Particularly in the U.S., you might have to finagle your way a little bit if you have a local Capital One branch, because it will automatically default to that, but you can get around that. Anybody that wants to know how to do that, they can just shoot me an email. I'll tell them the way to circumvent that little loophole if you need to. But it is really cool, and it connects with QuickBooks, connects with Zero Accounting. I believe it'll connect with not FreshBooks, but FreshBooks as well. All the big ones, it'll connect there. If you're doing a third-party accounting tool, or if you have an accountant or bookkeeper, they can log in and do everything for you.
Nice. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about banks. We're going to take a quick little break here, Jason. When we come back, let's talk about now what type of accounts, especially if we're just wanting to start setting up and someone wants to start putting money into these different slots. Let's talk a little bit about that here. We'll be back in about 90 seconds. We've got some of our summer 2016 sponsors with DGN TV.
Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
back again. Okay, so before we went into break, we were talking about a couple of banks, and during the break, Jason and I were talking, and I had mentioned that our local credit union is where we do business. I got to look at the right camera. I've got to move this camera. What happens sometimes, gang, is that the right camera is over here, but tonight it didn't catch, and I could shut down the whole computer and restart it, or I could just use the FaceTime camera. So we're doing FaceTime camera tonight. Sorry, I needed to explain, so you're not going to wonder why I'm always staring like that.
Technical genius of John.
Technical, yeah, exactly. Again, it's have you turned it off and restarted it? Yeah, that's exactly how to fix this problem. But we weren't.
The battery's plugged in, John.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
battery's in. That's all we need.
You've got the switch on. Is it plugged in? Yeah. Well, it's all of that. So, but our local credit union is where we do a lot of business because they do a lot of business with our local newspaper. And as we go in and we log in, we can only have 4 different accounts under a main account number, 4 different spots to put whatever. We got our savings, and I think there's 2. The checkbook, and I think there's 3 different savings we can have, and that's the extent of it for allocating where. So we have to do it differently.
One thing you might try to do if you haven't yet, I'm sure you probably have, but we do recommend going local if you can. So as far as Profit First goes, we're all about supporting our local community. So if you have a credit union that's willing to work with you to get beyond that 4 accounts, that's certainly what we recommend. Sometimes going to the bank manager directly, you can get a rep.
That's probably something I probably should do, and I think part of it is that we just that's what their typical is, and I wonder if it's one of those things that I just haven't questioned it or haven't tried or what have you.
We found that if you tell them what you're trying to do, what the purpose is of what you're doing, for instance, as we talk a little bit more about accounts here in a second about Profit First, if you go in and try to walk them through that visualization of what you're using these accounts for, usually you can get through it a little bit. We've had a few people that are pushbacks, but it's generally the bigger banks that push back at us. People like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase. Those are the ones that are like, we don't need your money for extra accounts, so whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to have to dig into that, even though we have everything kind of established. Now I'm curious if a person goes and asks them. So let's talk about those different little accounts. I mean, if you're familiar with the Dave Ramsey world, this would be the different envelopes that you put because. That's
Total Money Makeover up there. That's Dave.
Yep, exactly. We can see it right
in the back here.
Yeah, and that was one of the cool things I mentioned to Jason earlier before we went on the air, is that a lot of people from Mobile B, when after it was done, and I went, hey, what did you think of Jason? They're like, it's like Dave Ramsey for my business, and that's a great way, I think, for a lot of people to start wrapping their head around the concept, because as I went through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, there was some great information there, but it's like, it just didn't feel like it was completely applicable to my business. And I was asking questions and talking to the people who are leading it, and I was getting, oh yes, you can adapt and do this, and it's like, it just doesn't seem quite like, I almost felt like I had a square peg trying to get it into that round hole. Right. So that's why.
Well, let me ask you. You've read Profit First, so would you say it's a fair assumption to jump to Profit First really is finding that round peg for the round hole and getting it to fit?
I would definitely say so. I really do. I think it's a common sense, and I don't want to make it. I don't want to use that phrase and make it sound like I'm belittling the process, but it makes sense. It's one of those things that if you would sit down and you would have all the time in the world to put together your business plan and how you'd run your business, eventually you'd come to this, because this is the logical end conclusion. It's just that to get from
we don't work off of logic, though. We're people. We're emotion driven.
Exactly. So we would never get
that. I want to see that big lump of money in there so we can use it all at once, and then it's all gone again.
Exactly. And that's why, in some ways it's like it's like a dope moment as you were explaining it to me the first time and hearing about it, and it's like that just it's again, it should be logical, but there's that darned emotion thing, and if we had more Vulcan blood in all of us, we wouldn't have this problem.
Well, what's interesting about the emotions behind it, once it really starts working for you, once it's kicked in, that feeling of success, that emotion of success that just kind of keeps you going, the adrenaline builds. This is one of the first years that I've had it in place. It's been in there for such a period of time, and I've kind of tweaked it to the point where it makes the most sense for me personally in my business. Mm-hmm. And everybody's unique, but there's a basis around it. I now have enough money in my owner's pay account. And we'll talk about the accounts in a few seconds.
Yep.
But in my owner's pay account, it sits there, and that's what pays me a salary each time I go through and I run this process. So there's more money in there than I pay myself each month. to the point in which I could probably step away from my business for about 6 months right now, and I would still be able to pay myself for the next 6 months and not worry about it. Historically, I would have never done that. I would have said, oh, I got whatever it is, $10,000 in this account. I'm going to find a way to spend $10,000 this month because there's $10,000 in there.
Mm-hmm.
And as we talked about early on with that cycle of events that roll through, I would have hit the end of the year and I wouldn't have any money left. And I would be trying to figure out how to pay my house bills and my car bills and all those other.
During those cold months where we aren't booking as many events and yada, yada, yada. And
yeah. And yours are colder than mine. So.
They are. But still, when the checkbook's not having the weekly influx of money, everything seems colder.
It does.
So let's talk about the accounts.
Yes. So we start with the main account. That's your income account. That's where all your money is going to go into. You're not using it for expenses. You're not using it to pay yourself. You're using it just to collect your money. That is where all the action happens, so to speak. Some of us might have a double account for that because particularly smaller companies, we're processing through companies like PayPal to do credit cards. So you might have two in there that you double up. You may need to move money back and forth between those to count as your income account. From there, we're going to start allocating 100% of that money out to other accounts. So the four primary accounts beyond that we have, one is called the profit account, profit first. One is called the owner's pay account. Another is a tax account. And then we have our operating expenses, which is the remaining amount from that percentage allocation that we do. Right off the top, we want to take a profit for our business because if our business isn't profitable, there's really no reason to be in business.
For sure.
It's no other way to put that. I mean, if you want to work and take home a net zero, I got some tasks I can give you. Trust me. Then, of course, the taxes. We talked about taxes earlier, how I was able to make sure I had money set aside for that. We have a percentage that we work. We actually work out of your historical balance sheets. Pretty much a couple documents you can pull out of QuickBooks real easily. And if you're a sole proprietor, we pull your 1040 as well. We look at those numbers, say this is what your liability is on average. This is the percentage of your annual income that makes up that percent. So we're going to set this aside throughout the course of the year. And it'll flux. That's the joy of all this being percentage based is it fluxes based on whether you have a lean month where you're not taking in a whole lot or you have a really busy month where you're taking in a whole bunch. It'll all make itself pay at the end of the year. And then owner's pay, again, is how you pay yourself. So we are going to pay the owner of the business, or if you have partners in the business, we're going to pay you a salary, which most of us have never heard of before.
Yeah.
I know guys that have been doing this 15 years and they just go, whatever's in the bank is what I pay myself. Whatever's left over at the end of the year, that's what my profit was. And we try to get away from that mentality. And that's where you start to grow the business. And then, again, your remainder there, that's what you have to run your business on. So in my business, it's about 20%. It'll fluctuate between 15 and 25% as to what I actually run my business on. And the interesting thing is when I do assessments on other businesses, we find those numbers are a little bit flipped. So owners are not paying themselves what they should be. They're a little bit lower down here and their expenses are way up here. And we want to actually kind of flip those numbers to the other side. And so when you're getting started, you'll look at it and you'll kind of be like, I can't do a complete 180 reversal on this. So we actually create a plan that pushes this out anywhere from 6 months to as much as 18 months in some cases to get those numbers in the right place, or at least closer to the right place. And we reevaluate it every quarter too.
Now, when you're reevaluating, are you looking at just one aspect of it? Or, I mean, are you evaluating the whole picture, and would you be changing the values over the whole picture, or do you just tweak an area at a time?
It varies by business. Everybody's business is unique. Everybody's business mentality is unique and how they manage it. Sometimes we find doing everything can become so overwhelming that
that's what I was thinking.
You look at it and you go, this is awesome. And then you start to do it and you get scared of it. And you're like, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
So at the very core of it, if we just do one thing, we ask you to set up a profit account. And we can determine what that number is historically if you have profit. If you don't have profit, we just say put 1% in there. There's no doubt in my mind that everybody watching this right now, if they just put 1%, or even if they were historically profitable, 1 extra percent over, they would still be able to run their business. They would still pay themselves the same way they've been paying themselves. Everything will operate the same way, but they'll stash 1% over as profitability in the business. That's the lowest hurdle you can get by, the lowest effort that you can put into this. Going back to the reevaluation, so as we get further into it, we may have just set up those 5 accounts and put some percentages on it based on your historical analysis. But as we get further into it, if we're really trying to trim those expenses, we're looking at profitability. Now we're going to break down smaller things. We're going to say, okay, what's your music subscription like as a DJ? Are you really utilizing a $100 a month subscription to one of our fabulous sponsors that here I've seen videos for all night long?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to take money out of their pocket, but I wasn't using a $100 subscription with who I was using. And I called them up and I said, look, I use about 10% of this music, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not using videos. I'm not a video DJ. I may be SOL down the road, but that's probably not the end of the game that I'm going to go to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not in my DNA. So I wanted to make sure I dropped the videos from my subscription package. And then I looked a little bit closer, and can I say who I was with? I don't know if that's a violation of anything.
Well, it wouldn't be a violation, but just as long as we're not going to...
No. So I'm with promo only. I've been with promo only actually since 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So I 20 years with them. I love them. But the truth is I pretty much use rhythm radio and mainstream radio, and then their edits that they put out on the weekly discs. And of course now all subscription, but online. And so I called up, I said, this is what I do. And they said, well, we have this other plan. You also get a discount because you're with ADJA. Here you go. And I went, great. I ended up saving myself out in the end, I think it was another 35% off of it for the year,
Mm-hmm.
which per month looks like lunch, but over the course of the year, it's a nice dinner. It really is.
Yeah, exactly.
And those little things are little tiny wins that add up at the end of the day.
For sure. We've got a lot of great. Great.
I'm looking this way because my questions are over here.
Yeah. We got a couple of questions that I want to get to. First off, Jason, if people want to find out more information, I'm going to put this into the. What's the website where you can go and they can find out more about the whole stuff, the whole rigmarole?
Let's give them prophethood.academy.
Prophethood.academy.
Yes.
Spelled
and
out.
so that's actually go ahead. What were you?
Prophethood.academy. Okay, I guess I have not heard academy as a.
I can type it in there if you want. Actually, I'm in the chat. I can.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think it'll. Yeah, I don't think it'll let you.
Does it like me?
It won't like.
Nope, I'm not allowed to do that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I just put it in. I put it in the description below. I guess I didn't realize academy was a.
So Academy is one of the new domains. It's actually given me some trouble on a few fronts.
Yeah.
I was linking to Vimeo because we do have private training set up in there, and Vimeo was not allowing me to use it as a domain. So it took me about a month and a half to get them to let me do that.
Interesting.
It's been an interesting hurdle for me. We do have a .com out there, but I wanted to condense it down a little bit, so we went with .academy.
Yeah, because Academy is much more condensed than .com.
It is, isn't it? Well, we had prophethood.com is not to me, and I don't want to tell you where that goes. So
we've had that up there.
But the prophethoodacademy.com is also forwarding to it.
Okay, yeah, we got it up there, and I put it in the chat also. A couple of questions, and we got to wrap things up because we've got Jason coming up here with the websites in just a couple of minutes. Somebody was asking to explain the profit check and profit distribution as you talked about it at Mobile Beat. Is this something you can give us a 60-second answer?
Let me see if I can do this. So the check and the distribution is all done quarterly. So at the end of March, June, so we got one coming up, the end of September and the end of December, we do a kind of a rehash. We would pull those documents out again and see what's your balance sheet look like, where are your numbers, do we need to adjust the percentages and all. So if we were taking 3.5% profit, can we move it to 4%? Do we need to move it down to 3%? Or are things going really good? The distribution check itself, we take half of what's in the profit account. So we're not going to take it all out of there. We want a little bit of savings in there. So if we do hit that really lean month in the cold months, we have a little bit of money to rely on if we really need it. We try not to touch it if we do. So we'll take half of it out, and that actually goes to the owner of the business, and we use it as a reward. We don't put it back in our businesses. So we don't say, okay, I'm going to go buy this new Pioneer controller because it's the cool thing this month. We say, no, I'm going to take a trip to Disneyland, or I'm going to treat myself to Hawaii and visit David Lewis, something like that. Right. Because we want to do that. We want to take the family out. We want to do something that rewards us for running our business. And that's once a quarter we do that.
Very nice. Okay. Then the second question Buttery had here is he's working another job and he buys equipment using some of the money from the other job to supplement his DJ and to buy gear and such. And I think kind of tied into that is the times where you have a month where you're not able to cover expenses. And I think it would all tie in there is how do you basically float money or get money to your business when you don't have it allocated?
That's a tricky question. If I were being the gremlin that I should be, I would say this is your come to Jesus moment where you really look at your business and you say, what can I not pay this month? Mm-hmm. And then you learn what you don't need to work with. What can you start to really cut out? But I understand there are a lot of DJs, particularly part-timers, that get stuck in this situation. So what you might need to do is look at ways that you can either increase your income. So it's a two-way street, unfortunately. If you can find a way to get that top line of the revenue boosted a little bit, then your bottom line starts to even itself out. But there's no shame in borrowing against another business that you're working for. There's really no shame in taking out a loan, as long as it goes towards a investment that's going to reap your rewards in the end. So I do it all the time. I work with PayPal and I take out one of their capital investments. I'll take out $2,000 or $3,000 sometimes just to either push out some advertising, maybe push out a hardware investment that I'm going to do. So maybe I want to get into monogram projections and I want to go out and buy 2 or 3 video projectors. I borrow that money. I know that I can sell that within the first quarter to return that money back where it should be. Mm-hmm. And then I'm back on a positive note from that. So loans are okay. They're not evil. Sometimes they're a necessary thing that we need to do to run our business.
Yeah. Cool. Jason, I think we're going to have to wrap things up.
Okay.
Profithood.academy is there. I think we're going to probably have to set up another time to have you come back in.
That's okay. I had a whole list of stuff here.
I know you had a list, and we have questions that I think...
I have like 30 seconds to plug one.
Please, go ahead.
So profithood.academy, one thing I do want to let everybody know, because there was a lot of talk about Mobile Beat in my presentation there.
Yeah.
That presentation will be up later this month for sale. It's also, if you're a member of Profit Hood Academy, you'll get that automatically as part of the membership. But if you want a one-time buy, just like you would buy a DVD from one of the guys there, that'll be up at the end of this month. So
very nice. That's I of the sessions at Mobile Beat this year, yours was one that a lot of people had really it resonated with them. And
I'm trying to figure out how to top it next year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the only thing I can think is you're going to be doing Pants Off, Dance Off. That's the only thing
I'll be just make it rain. I'll throw all my money out there.
Just send that out. Good stuff.
Look at that little gun that shoots money out.
Yeah, but it was quarters, and I injured 25 people. Oh.
Liability insurance. That's what
exactly. That'll be our next show.
John,
Jason,
thank you.
Thank you for coming on tonight, Jason. And gang, I just put the link for the third show. We'll be up here in just a couple of minutes. Jason Cathcart will be with me, and we're going to be talking websites. Jason Spencer, thank you much, and we will hopefully be able to get you on here again this summer and go answer some of these questions. All right, gang, we'll be back in just a minute.